Well, let's talk more about Del Toro Moon. I'm not going to give it justice. If you could give us just the elevator pitch or the summary for those foolish enough to have embarked on this episode without having first read Del Toro Moon, as soon as you're done watching, go get your copy. We're going to convince you today this is a book you don't want to miss. But tell esteemed viewer about the book.
Okay, so basically it's about a 12-year-old boy and his family who, aided by talking Andalusian war horses and carrying magical maces, which are war clubs, hunt monsters in modern-day southern Colorado. And their task is, since the 1600s, their family has guarded, the local people from monsters in this region. And so the family has to go out periodically into the canyon lands where you can't get vehicles. And they go on their horses and they keep the number of skinners, which are the monsters, down to a minimum. And there are families like the Del Toros scattered all over the Southwest. This is an ancient group who came over to the New World centuries ago and have stayed here to guard the people from monsters. So you have the Navars down in New Mexico and the Montoyas out in Arizona. And I just focused on the Del Toro family. And the book is as much about monster hunting and weapons, but it's also about the power of family love, the love of this dad for his two boys, the love the two boys have for each other, although Matt's older brother, Ben's, can be a typical older brother. And the power of love between Matt and El Cid. And El Cid's like a second father to Matt, and they're very close. And Matt's coming of age, and Matt wants to be a great hunter like his dad, but he doesn't know if he can. And like every 12-year-old, you don't know if you can live up to the family reputation. And so it was a lot of fun to write. It was really, I would say, of all my books, it's my hands down favorite. It was the book of my heart. I've always wanted to write about talking horses. I could have done talking dragons, but my families are they're caballeros from way back, so they're horsemen. They're not dragon riders. Oh, speaking of dragons, one of my favorite books of all time, Naomi Novak's Temeraire series. Have you read that?
I haven't. Should I add it right to the top of the list?
Add it, because think Master and Commander, but with dragons. So she has the Napoleonic War going on with the Navy, the Army, but now an Air Force where they ride dragons. So great series. I loved it. Pick it up. Yeah.
We should rewrite whatever they've got on the cover and put that on front, because that'll move books.
Yeah.
Let me ask you about Del Toro Moon. And I've got a bunch of questions I want to unpack just from your description. But one thing that really struck me as I read it is what an amazing opening you've got. I'm a sucker for a great opening, because I'm a firm believer that if you don't nail your opening, don't worry about the middle or the ending. The reader's already doing something else. And that opening just grabs you right there from that first sentence. You've got a tremendous cliffhanger there at the end of the first chapter that there's no way you could possibly set the book down. Slight spoiler, I guess, for chapter 1. We open with our hero Matt Del Toro getting ready to face his first Skinner. And no sooner is one Skinner dispatched than 4 more show up, and that's how the chapter ends. And well, am I going to put this book down when poor Matt might be eaten by 4 Skinners, or am I going to keep going? So talk a little bit about the opening and what you're trying to achieve, and also how many times did you rewrite that opening?
Oh gosh, that's a great question, because like you and I have talked it in the past, I usually try to write my ending scene first. So I always write the last chapter first, or the last scene first in a book. And I kind of did that with this. But this book kind of came out of nowhere one day. And it was that first line that just kind of popped into my head. The one that's, now I'm trying to remember my first line. The worst thing about riding point on your first hunt, waiting to see if you're going to die on your first hunt. And as soon as those words came into my head, I thought, well, who's hunting? Why is it his first hunt? And then I had to go, write the story around it.
So you started with just that opening line, because it is a killer.
Yeah. Hey, Tolkien started with a hole in the ground. There lived a hobbit on the back of a paper he was grading when he was a professor. And he said, what's a hobbit? Why does it live in a hole? And from there, as we know, history came about. But yeah, that opening line, and I wanted to set the tone. This is my first book I ever written in first person. All my books have been written in third person point of view. And I tried first person to get Matt's voice just right. And I wanted kind of that a little bit snarky, a little bit sarcastic, but not too much, because Matt's a worrier, and he's a little unsure of himself. He's not quite as cocky as Big Brother Ben. So I used that first opening line to kind of set up Matt's personality. And then I know I wanted to make sure right away that the reader knew that these not only were these family on horseback, but that the horses could talk and that the horses don't get along. So El Cid and Turk were immediately sniping at each other from day one. But then Turk would argue with a stump. So, that's his nature. And I wanted Dad's nature to come right out. So I put it all together. But of course, you got to have a mini cliffhanger at the end of a chapter. And it's hard to remember to put them on the end of every chapter. But with your first chapter, you absolutely want to keep that reader going. And, the goal of every writer is to make sure that the reader is sleep deprived and never can, get to bed on time because they're reading your book.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I always worry that if you get to the end of that chapter and you don't have some kind of cliffhanger, that's a moment they might, a lot of these books I'm reading here on my phone, depending on where I'm out and about in the world. And if you don't have me hooked to keep going, I might check my email or check Twitter, and then you've lost me.
Yep. And, we're in a society where, like you said, there are so much competition for people's entertainment, not only their attention, but their entertainment dollar. And so we have to really give them a product that they feel, wow, this is worth my time and worth my money to get involved in. So, of course, I always believe that books will always be here. And because every medium needs good storytelling. Music needs a good story, and art needs a story, and certainly movies need stories. And so we as storytellers will always be in demand.